this court will sentence you to life in Florida State Prison.
The sudden loss of famous rappers leaves fans and loved ones wondering, what happens next? The justice system usually steps in, seeking to provide closure for the victims and for fans like us. But is that enough? Is that all the justice they receive? In this video, we're diving deep into that question. We're focusing on the men who were charged with these high-profile crimes and exploring what happened to them after the public's attention waned. Take the case of José Dwayne Ricardo Onfroy, better known as XXXTentacion. This controversial rapper, revered as a trailblazer of the emo rap genre, had built a massive cult following. His rise to fame was steady until it was tragically cut short on June 18, 2018, when he was killed by 4 assailants. The investigation into XXXTentacion's murder played out like a crime thriller. Authorities used multiple surveillance camera angles, tracked social media activity, and even discovered crucial clues in a browser history. On that ill-fated day, José visited a Bank of America branch to withdraw cash before heading to Riva Motorsports. Riva Motorsports, a high-end retailer of motorcycles, boats, and scooters, was the rapper's next stop. After making his withdrawal, he unknowingly became the target of a shadowy SUV carrying 4 future suspects: Dedrick Williams, Robert Allen, Michael Boatwright, and Trayvon Newsome. Each suspect played a unique role in what followed, ultimately leading to their arrests and convictions. Once at Riva Motorsports, XXXTentacion entered the showroom alongside his step-uncle, Leonard Kerr. Surveillance footage showed Dedrick Williams and Robert Allen quietly tailing them into the store. These 2 suspects even passed José as he browsed motorcycles, leaving no indication of the shocking events that would soon unfold. Surveillance footage from the Riva Motorsports store showed Williams and Allen entering and purchasing 2 black masks. Testimonies revealed that these 2 were well aware their faces had been captured on camera, so they avoided taking on the most damning role. Instead, the responsibility for killing XXXTentacion fell to the other 2 suspects, Michael Boatwright and Trayvon Newsome. Approximately 30 minutes after the group left the store, XXXTentacion emerged, got into his black BMW, and prepared to leave the dealership. The suspect's SUV pulled ahead, blocking his path. At that moment, Boatwright and Newsome stepped out, demanding the rapper's belongings. A brief struggle broke out. Boatwright and Newsome punched XXXTentacion multiple times while Newsome tried to snatch his chain. During this chaotic scene, XXXTentacion's step-uncle fled the car, leaving the passenger door wide open. Unable to rip the chain from the rapper's neck, Newsome decided to jump into the passenger side and grab a Louis Vuitton bag containing $50,000. Newsome ran back to the SUV, but Boatwright wasn't finished. He walked back to XXXTentacion's car, stood only a couple of feet away, locked eyes with him, and fired multiple gunshots. The group then fled in their SUV, leaving XXXTentacion fatally wounded. He was pronounced dead at around 5:30 p.m. that same day. What followed was an intense manhunt. A $3,000 reward was offered for any tips leading to the suspects. Just 2 days after the murder, authorities captured their first lead. On June 20, 2018, the Broward County Sheriff's Office arrested 22-year-old Dedrick Williams. He was spotted driving his silver 2004 Honda and was apprehended after a brief car chase. Shortly after the murder, detectives focused their attention on Dedrick Williams. His distinctive outfit on the day of the crime, which included bright orange sandals and a white tank top, helped identify him. Police matched security footage with recent photos from his Instagram, where he'd posted images of himself in those same orange sandals. Store employees from Riva Motorsports also confirmed seeing Williams there, purchasing a neoprene mask just hours before the attack. Days later, Robert Allen was declared a person of interest. He was apprehended on July 26th, marking another major development in the case. The next suspect, Michael Boatwright, was initially arrested on unrelated drug charges on July 5th. But only 5 days after his arrest, detectives served Boatwright with a warrant for premeditated first-degree murder. The evidence against him included a glaring detail from his internet search history. Just after the crime, he had searched terms like accessory to murder and XXXTentacion. These searches reportedly stemmed from Boatwright's attempt to reassure Allen that he could only be charged as an accessory since he hadn't fired the gun. The final suspect, Trayvon Newsome, was apprehended a month later, completing the circle. All 4 individuals faced charges of premeditated first-degree murder, along with additional charges. Of the group, Robert Allen chose to cooperate with authorities, pleading guilty to second-degree murder in exchange for testifying against the other 3. During the trial, a mountain of evidence was presented against the suspects. This included DNA evidence, a confession from Newsom about burying the stolen cash, incriminating text messages, and a .22 caliber bullet found in Williams's home. Additionally, Boatwright's phone was connected via Bluetooth to the murder vehicle, and both Boatwright's and Williams's phone locations were tied directly to the scene of the crime. A box of bullets found in Michael Boatwright's home contained just 4 missing rounds, the exact number of times Sexy Tentacion was shot. On March 20th, 2023, after nearly 2 weeks of jury deliberations, the verdict was delivered. Dedrick Williams, Trayvon Newsom, and Michael Boatwright were all found guilty on every charge. Williams and Newsom received life sentences without the possibility of parole. Boatwright faced an even harsher sentence: 2 consecutive life terms, one for first-degree murder, another for armed robbery, plus an additional 30 years for related charges. Robert Allen, having cooperated with authorities, was sentenced to 7 years, with credit for nearly 5 years already served, followed by 20 years of probation. The next case that gripped headlines involved Takeoff, the youngest member of the Grammy-nominated hip-hop trio, Migos. In the early hours of November 1st, 2022, Takeoff was tragically killed. Authorities pointed to 33-year-old Patrick Xavier Clark as the main suspect. According to court records, Clark had purchased tickets to Mexico just 2 days before his arrest and had applied for an expedited passport. Investigators stated that Clark managed to obtain the passport, and when apprehended, he was found in possession of a significant amount of cash. This evidence led Houston police detectives to suggest that Clark had been planning to flee the country. When Clark first appeared in court, his attorney Letitia Quinones pushed back against the allegations. As the legal process unfolded, more information came to light about both Clark and Takeoff. But to fully understand the situation, we need to revisit the events that led up to that fatal night. On November 1st, 2022, a private party was held at 810 Billiards and Bowling in Houston's Green Street Commercial District. What should have been a night of celebration turned into a tragedy that shook the music world. The party in question was hosted by James Prince, often regarded as one of the founding fathers of the rap industry. As CEO and co-founder of the Houston-based record label Rap-A-Lot, Prince has deep ties to the hip-hop world. Migos members, including Takeoff and Quavo, attended the event, with Quavo having shared a video earlier that evening showing him driving through Houston alongside Jay Prince Jr., James's second son. According to reports from a Houston television station, approximately 40 people had gathered outside the bowling alley after the party ended around 1 a.m. Tensions escalated when Quavo, whose real name is Quavius Marshall, got into a heated argument. The dispute, reportedly involving Michael Prince and 2 other young men, stemmed from a dice game. This confrontation tragically led to multiple individuals firing weapons. Takeoff, who was not involved in the dice game or the argument, was caught in the crossfire as an innocent bystander. At around 2:30 a.m., police received a call about the shooting at 1210 San Jacinto Street in downtown Houston. When they arrived, they found a man lying dead on the 3rd floor outside the front entrance of the bowling alley. That man was Takeoff, born Kershnik Karibal. Houston police confirmed that Takeoff was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time, as he had no involvement in the gambling dispute. He suffered multiple gunshot wounds to the head and torso. A nearby resident, who worked as a nurse, heard the gunshots and rushed to help. She attempted to check Takeoff's pulse, but he was already unresponsive by the time she reached him. 2 other individuals were injured in the shooting. Joshua Wash Washington, a 24-year-old business associate of Quavo, and a 23-year-old woman both suffered non-life-threatening injuries and were taken to hospitals in private vehicles. The tragic incident culminated in the arrest of Patrick Xavier Clark on December 2, 2022. Roughly a month after the Migos rapper Takeoff was killed in downtown Houston, Patrick Xavier Clark was arrested on the city's east side without any resistance. He became the second individual charged in relation to the tragic bowling alley shooting. Just hours before Clark's arrest, authorities detained 22-year-old Cameron Joshua. Joshua faced 2 counts of felon in possession of a weapon, though he was not alleged to have played a direct role in Takeoff's death. Clark, on the other hand, was connected to the shooting through a crucial piece of evidence. According to investigators, surveillance footage showed Clark firing his gun while holding a wine bottle in his other hand. The fingerprints left on that wine bottle, along with the trajectory of his gunfire, pointed directly to Clark as the shooter. Detectives believe his bullets struck Takeoff. On May 26, 2023, a grand jury indicted Clark for the murder of Takeoff. If convicted, he could face anywhere from 5 years to life in prison. Clark's defense attorney, Letitia Quinones Hollins, addressed the indictment in a statement to CNN. She stressed that an indictment only requires a low standard of proof and expressed confidence in Clark's ultimate acquittal. Quinones Hollins emphasized that when the case is presented before a jury, where the state must prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, she expects a not guilty verdict. At present, Clark remains under house arrest, confined by a $1 million bond and monitored by a GPS ankle device. Meanwhile, the tragedy surrounding Takeoff's death continues to cast a shadow over the hip-hop community. The case of Pop Smoke, born Bashar Baraka Jackson, offers another glimpse into the loss of a rising rap star. Known for hits like Dior and Welcome to the Party, Pop Smoke was rapidly climbing the ranks of the music world, seemingly unstoppable in his journey to the top. While on vacation in Los Angeles, Pop Smoke's life was tragically cut short in what many consider one of hip-hop's most senseless murders. Let's take a closer look at the events leading to his death and what happened to those responsible. On February 19, 2020, Pop Smoke, born Bashar Baraka Jackson, was staying at an Airbnb rental in Hollywood Hills, California. The property belonged to Real Housewives star Teddy Mellencamp and her husband Edwin Aroyav. In an era where celebrity locations can easily be traced through social media, real estate listings, and digital maps, the rapper's fate was sealed by the unintended exposure of his whereabouts online. The day before his murder, Pop Smoke and his friend Michael Duro posted images flaunting their luxurious Los Angeles stay. One of the posts revealed the home's address in the background. Additionally, Pop Smoke shared a story on Instagram displaying a package he'd received from the brand Amiri. The label on the package showed the property's full address, making it easy for potential assailants to pinpoint his location. These unintentional clues, combined with publicly available information, enabled the killers to track Pop Smoke to the Hollywood Hills residence. That night, he and his friends hosted a small gathering. At approximately 4:30 a.m., surveillance footage captured 5 hooded men entering the property through a second-story balcony. One of them, wearing a ski mask and armed with a handgun, encountered a woman inside the home. This woman later testified that a robber pressed a semi-automatic firearm to her head and commanded her to shut up. These terrifying moments marked the beginning of a tragedy that would shock the music industry and leave fans mourning the loss of a rising star. Do you want to die? That's what one of the intruders allegedly said to the woman who was with Pop Smoke that night. At the time, the rapper was in the shower. Moments later, she heard a commotion coming from the bathroom area. Pop Smoke was yelling. He ran out of the bathroom, and what followed was chaos. A gunshot rang out, and Pop Smoke fell to the ground. But that wasn't the end. 2 of the intruders began kicking him as he lay there, wounded. Despite his injuries, Pop Smoke managed to get up and flee downstairs. The woman then heard 2 more gunshots echo through the house. She rushed to the scene and found Pop Smoke lying on the ground. Desperately, she screamed for Michael Duro to call 911. EMTs arrived quickly, and Pop Smoke was rushed to the hospital. Doctors attempted surgery, but the injuries were too severe, and he succumbed. Initially, it seemed that the intruders hadn't stolen anything of value. This fueled speculation that the murder was gang-related, or possibly a premeditated hit. But as investigators delved deeper, the motive grew more elusive. Was this a planned assassination? A gang vendetta? Or was it simply a home invasion gone tragically wrong? Los Angeles mansions are often targeted in break-ins, and the circumstances began to point toward a robbery. Ultimately, authorities determined that the suspects had taken Pop Smoke's gold watch and some jewelry before fleeing. On July 9, 2020, the Los Angeles Police Department made a breakthrough. 5 individuals were arrested in connection with the killing. Among them were 19-year-old Corey Walker and 18-year-old Keandre Rogers. Both were charged with murder, along with a special circumstance allegation, which could make them eligible for the death penalty if convicted. This allegation claimed that the murder occurred during the commission of a robbery and burglary. 2 minors, aged 17 and 15, were also charged in connection with Pop Smoke's murder, each facing counts of murder and robbery in juvenile court. A 5th suspect, 21-year-old Jaquan Murphy, was initially arrested but wasn't charged with the rapper's death. Instead, Murphy was linked to an unrelated series of shootings earlier that same year. In 2023, one of the juveniles, now 18 years old, confessed in court to having killed Pop Smoke. The defendant, who was 15 at the time of the crime, admitted to a juvenile court petition for first-degree murder. It was revealed that he had previously told his cellmate he was the one who pulled the trigger. During the investigation, it came to light that the group had targeted Pop Smoke for his diamond-studded Cuban link chain. The juvenile confessed that they found Pop Smoke in the shower and demanded the jewelry. As the rapper attempted to fight back and flee, the juvenile struck him with a Beretta M9 pistol and then shot him 3 times. In the end, the assailants managed to escape with only a Rolex wristwatch, which they later sold for a mere $2,000. This juvenile is expected to remain in a state juvenile facility until his 25th birthday. The story of Lil Snoop offers another glimpse into the tragic loss of a young talent. Born Adderin Ross on July 13, 1995, Lil Snoop was celebrated for his freestyling skills and seemed poised to become one of the next big names in hip-hop. Raised under challenging circumstances, Snoop grew up primarily under the care of his mother, Denisha Chester, while his father, Charlie Brown, was incarcerated for much of his life. Despite the hardships, Lil Snoop nurtured a relentless passion for music. From a young age, he demonstrated an uncanny ability to craft rhymes off the top of his head, fueling his determination to rise above his circumstances and achieve greatness. Everyone who crossed paths with Lil Snoop recognized his immense talent, none more so than his mother, who worked tirelessly to support his dreams. Balancing multiple jobs, she saved enough to buy him recording equipment, hoping he'd channel his energy into music rather than the streets that had taken his father away. In 2012, Snoop dropped his first project, 16 and Runnin', quickly gaining attention in the underground scene. But Snoop had bigger ambitions. He wasn't content to remain under the radar. When his favorite rapper, Meek Mill, announced a show, Snoop seized the moment. After the concert, he approached Meek's van, knocked on the window, and handed over his mixtape. Not long after, Snoop received a call from a friend telling him that Meek had given him a shout-out on Twitter. Disbelief turned into celebration. He had bet on himself, and the gamble paid off. Soon, Meek Mill signed Lil Snoop to his Dream Chasers label. Snoop joined Meek on the road, learning the industry's ins and outs and showcasing his freestyle skills. With the release of his debut label project, RNIC, it seemed inevitable that he'd become the next breakout star. But this promising trajectory was tragically derailed. On June 20th, 2013, at around 4 a.m., a dispute during a video game session at the Maplewood Apartments in Louisiana ended in violence. Lil Snoop was shot twice in the torso and pronounced dead at the scene after paramedics were unable to revive him. This devastating turn of events abruptly ended what could have been a legendary career. According to a statement from Louisiana's Winfield Police Department, officers responded to reports of a shooting at the Maplewood Apartments on South Jones Street around 4:07 a.m. The initial investigation suggested that an argument during a video game session escalated into the fatal shooting of Lil Snoop. Winfield police investigator Charles Curry provided further details, noting that it appeared the altercation stemmed from a bet on video games. He said the fight took place at an apartment where Tony Holden was staying. A shattered window with a bullet hole served as a grim reminder of the incident. The 18-year-old rising rapper, who was visiting from Jonesboro, suffered 2 gunshot wounds to the torso and died shortly thereafter. During a November 2022 interview with Boss Talk 101, Lil Snoop's mother also confirmed the police's account. She explained that officers believed the argument and subsequent shooting occurred during a private NBA 2K gaming session at a friend's apartment. 6 days after the shooting, on June 26, 2013, 36-year-old Tony Holden, the primary suspect, turned himself in. He was booked into Winfield City Jail on charges of first-degree murder, armed robbery, and illegal possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. On July 3, 2013, another suspect, 21-year-old Edric O. Stewart, known as Lil E, was arrested and charged with manslaughter in connection with the shooting. However, according to Lil Snoop's mother, it was Lil E, not Tony Holden, who actually pulled the trigger. In a 2016 interview with XXL magazine, Snoop's mother revealed that investigators had determined the bullets that killed her son did not match Holden's gun, but were consistent with Lil E's weapon. This revelation added another layer of complexity to an already tragic and deeply personal story. Lil Snoop's mother shared her perspective on what happened following her son's death. She explained that Tony Holden, who had been out on bail at the time, turned himself in not out of remorse, but due to his legal situation. Though he was charged for being a convicted felon in possession of a firearm, resulting in a 10-year sentence, his bullet was not identified as the one that killed Snoop. Meanwhile, the charge against Edric Lily Stewart was dropped. According to Snoop's mother, Edric ended up with no significant penalties, facing only a charge for illegal use of a weapon in a violent crime. She added that the judge had clearly identified which bullet killed her son, so there was no question as to who was responsible. Despite this clarity, no one was ultimately prosecuted for Lil Snoop's death. It was a devastating and unjust conclusion to the life of a young rapper who had so much potential. The story of Nipsey Hussle offers another example of a promising career cut short. Nipsey Hussle, a celebrated rapper, entrepreneur, and community activist, rose to prominence on the West Coast hip-hop scene during the mid-2000s. His early career was marked by a series of well-received mixtapes that established his underground credibility and earned him a loyal local following. At just 14, Hussle left home and joined the Rollin' 60s neighborhood Crips, a gang rooted in the Crenshaw area where he grew up. However, a 3-month trip to Eritrea at age 19 proved transformative. The experience, initiated by his father, inspired Hussle's dedication to community building and sparked his entrepreneurial spirit. Before the release of his Grammy-nominated album Victory Lap, Hussle had already earned the respect of the hip-hop community, cultivating an A-list circle of supporters that included Drake, Snoop Dogg, and Rick Ross. In pursuit of greater mainstream recognition, he partnered with Jay-Z's Roc Nation Management Company. Yet, just as his mainstream breakthrough seemed inevitable, his life was tragically cut short. On the afternoon of March 31, 2019, Nipsey Hussle was killed by Eric Holder. According to court reports and witness accounts, Hussle often made unscheduled visits to the shopping plaza where his Marathon clothing store was located. That Sunday afternoon, he was chatting with friends and employees in the parking lot in front of his store when Holder approached, setting the stage for a shocking and heartbreaking loss. Nipsey Hussle spent about 30 minutes outside his Marathon store, signing autographs and posing for photos with fans. Meanwhile, Eric Holder was cruising around the area with his casual companion, a woman later identified at trial as Brianita Nicholson. They had stopped for food nearby, and while waiting in the car, Miss Nicholson noticed Hussle outside and casually remarked that he looked handsome. At that point, Holder showed no indication that he personally knew the rapper, but after ordering chili cheese fries, he stepped out of the car and approached Hussle for a brief conversation. Witnesses described the exchange as relaxed and low-key, but it touched on a serious subject. According to testimony, Hussle mentioned there were rumors that Holder had been cooperating with law enforcement. Deputy District Attorney John McKinney stated that Hussle had suggested Holder produce paperwork to clear his name. It appeared to be a calm and straightforward conversation, with no obvious signs of hostility. After their brief chat, Miss Nicholson approached Hussle for a selfie, which she later posted to Facebook. When asked if she had any sense that violence might break out, she stated, "No, I wasn't afraid at all." After finishing their meal, Holder told Miss Nicholson to pull into a nearby parking lot so he could eat his fries. He then exited the vehicle and walked back toward Hustle's store. Witnesses recounted that Holder confronted Hustle saying, "You're through," before opening fire with a gun in each hand. He struck Hustle at least 10 times, then delivered 2 vicious kicks to the head. 2 other individuals were injured during the attack. All 3 victims were taken to a hospital, but Hustle succumbed to his injuries and was pronounced dead at 3:55 p.m. The news of Hustle's death sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry. A-list celebrities and fans alike took to social media, offering heartfelt condolences and sharing their grief over the loss of a community icon and hip-hop pioneer. Former President Barack Obama paid tribute to Nipsey Hussle's dedication to his community, writing, "While most folks look at the Crenshaw neighborhood where he grew up and see only gangs, bullets, and despair, Nipsey saw potential." Rihanna expressed her deep sorrow, saying, "This doesn't make any sense. My spirit is shaken by this. Dear God, may his spirit rest in peace, and may you grant divine comfort to all his loved ones. I'm so sorry this happened to you." Other celebrities, including Pharrell Williams, LeBron James, John Legend, and Chance the Rapper, also shared heartfelt condolences. Fans launched a petition to rename the intersection of Slauson Avenue and Crenshaw Boulevard near Nipsey's Marathon clothing store as Nipsey Hussle Square. On the day of his funeral, the city council officially announced that the intersection would be renamed Ermias Nipsey Hussle Askodome Square in his honor, recognizing his contributions to the neighborhood. As for Eric Holder, the man responsible for Nipsey's tragic death, he was arrested 2 days after the incident. The Los Angeles Police Department placed him in solitary confinement due to the high-profile nature of the case. On May 9, 2019, a grand jury indicted Holder on multiple charges, including 1 count of murder, 2 counts of attempted murder, 2 counts of assault with a firearm, and 1 count of possession of a firearm by a felon. After several delays, Holder's trial began in mid-June 2022. His defense attorneys claimed that the shooting wasn't premeditated, but rather a heat-of-the-moment act. The prosecution countered that premeditation doesn't require weeks of planning, arguing that Holder thought about his actions and followed through. On July 6, 2022, Holder was found guilty of first-degree murder and 2 counts of attempted voluntary manslaughter. Nearly 4 years after Nipsey Hussle's death, on February 22, 2023, Eric Holder was sentenced to 60 years in prison. Another tragic story of a rising artist, FBG Duck, born Carlton Weekly on December 6, 1993, also underscores the challenges faced by young rappers. Known for his involvement with the Illinois-based rap group Flyboy Gang, FBG, Duck had deep ties to Chicago street culture. A member of the gang-affiliated set known as Ville, Duck's life was marked by the duality of growing up in a tough environment while striving to make a name for himself in music. FBG Brick, a close friend and confidant of FBG Duck, was shot and killed in 2017. Before that, in 2011, another friend, TKA, was gunned down at a bus stop by TYMB. Such stories of loss and violence are heartbreakingly common in certain parts of Chicago. On the city streets, family and friends often expect tragedy, as the cycle of violence has been a grim fixture for decades. FBG Duck was ultimately caught in that same tragic loop. Duck had numerous feuds in the rap game. He openly beefed with artists from Glory Boys Entertainment, GBE, and Only the Family, OTF. Chief Keef, GBE's leader, frequently dissed Duck and his gang in tracks, and Duck responded in kind, creating songs aimed at Chief Keef and other members of the Black Disciples. This beef extended beyond music. Duck also had issues with the late Black Disciples member King Von and the O-Block faction. The tension with Von proved fatal. According to a confidential informant in Chicago police custody, a member of the Black Disciples allegedly placed a $50,000 bounty on Duck's head. That bounty reportedly doubled to $100,000 shortly thereafter. Though the individual who offered the reward wasn't publicly named at first, certain clues emerged. The person allegedly ordered custom necklaces for members of the O-Block Black Disciples faction, which further fueled speculation. An FBI affidavit filed in March 2021 as part of an effort to gain access to data from suspects' cell phones mentioned that King Von had appeared in a YouTube video days after Duck's death. In the video, Vaughn is seen acquiring expensive O-block pendants for his crew, reinforcing the idea that he may have been involved in placing the bounty. The affidavit revealed more evidence linking O-block to Duck's murder. Investigators noted that several O-block members left Parkway Gardens about 20 minutes before the shooting in two cars, a Ford Fusion and a Chrysler 300. Using automated license plate readers and surveillance cameras, authorities were able to trace the vehicle's routes leading up to the crime. At 4:26 p.m. on August 4th, 2020, the cars pulled in front of Duck's girlfriend's vehicle on Oak Street. Moments later, the shooting began, cutting short the life of yet another young artist. Two men leapt from the Ford and opened fire on FBG Duck, while another pair exited the Chrysler, targeting Duck and his girlfriend. The rapper suffered over 16 gunshot wounds to his neck, chest, and groin. A staggering 38 shell casings were recovered at the scene. Though Duck initially tried to hide behind a nearby sedan, the onslaught left him critically injured. When police arrived, Duck was still alive and moving. However, they failed to apply pressure to his wounds or perform CPR. It took 20 minutes for paramedics to arrive, and by then, Duck had lost a significant amount of blood. Despite being rushed to the hospital and undergoing emergency surgery, it was too late. Duck was pronounced dead at 5:06 p.m. Initially, no suspects were arrested. Over a year later, in September 2021, a federal racketeering and murder indictment implicated 5 members of O-Block in Duck's killing. The accused included individuals known as Muwop, C. Murda, Los, Zelmunna, and Kenny Mack. Tragically, Zelmunna reportedly took his own life 2 months before authorities could apprehend him. According to the U.S. Attorney's Office for Northern Illinois, the suspects were members of the O-Block street gang and had used social media and music to boast about acts of violence, which they said helped fuel their criminal enterprise. Prosecutors have indicated that the murder charge carries a minimum sentence of life imprisonment and could lead to the death penalty. The trial is scheduled to begin in October 2023, and the judge has warned that it may be a lengthy process. Switching focus to another artist, young Dolph, born Adolph Robert Thornton Jr., carved out a significant niche in the Memphis rap scene. After debuting his album King of Memphis in 2016, Dolph quickly rose through the ranks. Over the years, he racked up 3 top 10 albums on the Billboard 200, selling a combined 221,000 copies and amassing 2.6 million equivalent album units. His independent success story became a beacon of inspiration for many in the music industry. Beyond his accomplishments as an artist, young Dolph thrived as a music executive, guiding the rise of his paper route empire and mentoring talent like Key Glock. Together, they released projects such as Dumb and Dumber in 2019 and Dumb and Dumber 2 in 2021, both of which reached the Billboard 200's top 10. Despite his professional success, Dolph's life was marked by near-fatal encounters. In February 2017, Dolph survived an ambush in Charlotte, North Carolina, where more than 100 shots were fired at his bulletproof SUV. He emerged unscathed and later referenced the ordeal in his track 100 Shots. Later that same year, Dolph was shot in Los Angeles, but he recovered from 3 gunshot wounds. These close calls underscored the perilous environment he navigated even as he achieved mainstream success. By early 2020, Dolph had hinted at retiring from music. In an Instagram post, he wrote, "Highly considering quitting the music business because I really want to be with my kids 24/7." He appeared to be prioritizing his family over his career. However, tragedy struck just 2 years later. On November 17, 2021, Dolph was fatally shot while visiting Makeda's Homemade Butter Cookies, a beloved Memphis bakery he often frequented to pick up treats for his mother. Surveillance footage captured 2 gunmen arriving in a white 2-door Mercedes-Benz. They opened fire, striking Dolph multiple times. An autopsy later revealed he suffered 22 gunshot wounds from both entry and exit points. The shocking nature of his murder drew hundreds of people to the scene, a testament to Dolph's deep impact on the Memphis community. Authorities worked quickly to maintain order as they conducted their investigation. On January 5, 2022, police announced they had identified one of Dolph's alleged killers, 23-year-old Justin Johnson. A first-degree murder warrant was issued, and Tennessee authorities offered a reward of up to $15,000 for information leading to his arrest. Johnson, who had a history of violent offenses and ties to organized gangs, pled not guilty. Another suspect, 32-year-old Cornelius Smith, was also charged with first-degree murder, weapon possession, and theft. Smith had previously been arrested for the theft of the car used in the crime. The arrests mark the beginning of the long judicial process to bring those responsible to justice. On the same day Justin Johnson was apprehended, law enforcement caught up with him in Indiana after receiving over 500 tips. Johnson maintained his innocence, pleading not guilty to the charges. Alongside him, 27-year-old Shundale Barnett, a passenger in the vehicle Johnson was driving, was also taken into custody and charged as an accessory after the fact. Another suspect, 43-year-old Hernandez Govan, faced charges of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Prosecutors alleged Govan arranged the killing of young Dolph, marking him as a key figure in the case. Most recently, 26-year-old Jermarcus Johnson accepted a plea deal with prosecutors. He pleaded guilty to 3 counts of accessory after the fact, acknowledging that he assisted 2 suspects, his half-brother Justin Johnson and Cornelius Smith, after the killing. Jermarcus admitted to helping them communicate while on the run and also confessed to taking possession of the getaway car from his half-brother. With this admission, Jermarcus became the first individual to plead guilty in connection to young Dolph's murder, a case that shocked both Memphis and the larger entertainment community. Meanwhile, the remaining suspects continue to plead not guilty. Given the complexity of the case, the amount of evidence, and the number of defendants involved, it's expected that the trial for those accused of murdering young Dolph won't begin until sometime in 2024.